Hey guys, it's Christy here, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd do an updated video on how I insert my NG tube. I did do a video on this about a year ago on my channel and it was a very popular video, but I left out certain details because I was so nervous recording that video. So I thought I would do an updated version today, make sure all the information's in here, really make this video a one-stop shop for people who might be inserting their own NG tube or for medical professionals who want to learn the process or just see the process. I'll have the original video for how I insert an NG tube linked down below. So I'm going to be showing you today the process step by step, all the equipment I have and each stage of the process. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about why I use an NG tube. This is something I actually didn't mention in my last video and it was just because I was so nervous I actually forgot to mention it. But I use an NG tube because I have Crohn's disease. It's an inflammatory bowel disease and it causes me to have inflammation in my large and small bowel. It is actually an immune problem where your immune system attacks your digestive system, so it can attack any part of the digestive system from your mouth to your anus. And for me, it really affects my small and my large bowel, and it causes me to have a lot of inflammation, ulceration, bleeding in my bowel. And I think of it as if I had a cut on my arm and if I kept rubbing against the cut would take really long to heal. So it's the same in terms of food. If I'm constantly putting regular food into my body and it's rubbing and rubbing against my bowel wall, and my bowel wall is very sensitive, it's sort of cut up, it's ulcerated, it will take longer to heal than if it was kind of left alone. So I actually use the NG tube to give myself bowel rest. I use a feed called Vital and it's partially broken down and it's completely liquid feed, and so whenever it goes into my bowel it's very gentle, it's easily absorbed, it's already partially broken down so my bowel has to do less work and it really gives my bowel a chance to rest and actually heal. So the way I use my NG tube is I've done the whole 8 to 10 weeks of solid NG tube feeding really to give myself a boost and really speed up the healing process. And now what I do is I actually supplement my diet with the NG tube. So I will go to my very safe solid foods. And then if I'm starting to feel like my Crohn's is getting a bit worse or I'm getting more symptoms, I will supplement with the NG tube. So I'll use it for a couple of days, go back to my solid food, or I'll actually eat solid food in the morning and then NG tube feed at night time. And I find that that's a good treatment for me. It really just helps to supplement my other medications that I take and really helps to leave me in a good place. So some of the comments I've got on my other video was, why don't I actually drink the liquid feed in the little cartons that they come in? And the reason for that is because I get something called dumping syndrome. So the reason that happens for me is because when I'm using my NG tube pump, it pumps the feed very slowly and it only pumps it at 90 mils per hour, so that's a very small amount of liquid. Whereas actually drinking a drink out of a carton, it's really hard to drink it that slowly. So I inevitably end up drinking it a little bit faster than my NG tube pump, and then my bowel becomes overwhelmed with liquid, it doesn't like it, and then it just gets rid of it. And that actually defeats the purpose of me getting extra nutrition from my NG tube feed as well. The NG tube feed is very easy to absorb, so I actually get more nutrients out of it than whenever I am eating solid food. So if I am drinking the drinks and then it's just going straight through me, I'm actually not getting any nutrients from the drinks, and so it's actually not really sustainable for me to keep drinking them. So I therefore use my NG tube feed and it works really well for me. I would obviously prefer to be able to drink the drinks, but they just do not work. So if you're finding that you're drinking the drinks and you're going to the toilet all the time, it is possibly because you have dumping syndrome. So anyway, that sort of is a little bit about why I use the NG tube, the condition that I have that causes me to use it, and why I don't drink the drinks instead. Now let's move on to the equipment I have and everything I've got ready before I actually insert my NG tube. So the first thing I have is my NG tube. This is a CoreFlow fine bore NG tube. I have some OptiLube, which I will use to lubricate the end of the NG tube, which will make insertion a lot easier. Next, I have some gloves for inserting my NG tube. I don't usually use gloves and I got so much crap about this in my last video. Because I insert the NG tube on myself, I just wash my hands really well, and then I insert the NG tube with my bare hands, and it's essentially like me eating a burger with my hands because I'm not going to put gloves on to eat a burger, and it's kind of a similar sort of principle. It's all going into my stomach and I have stomach acid that will kill any remaining germs on my hands. But if you are inserting an NG tube on someone else, you're a medical professional or you're, a relative of someone and you're putting the NG tube into them, I think it's always good to wear gloves. Next up, I have my dressings to secure my NG tube to my face. I usually use the Duroderm extra thin spots, but today I'm going to be using this medical tape here, and to cut it I have just a pair of scissors. Then I have a little alcohol wipe. I will use this to wipe my skin where I am going to be putting my dressing, and this is just so the dressing adheres really well to my face, because there can be oils on the face that stop it adhering properly, so this just gets rid of any oils. I then have a glass of water and a little straw, and this will help me to swallow down my NG tube and make the process of inserting a lot easier. I have some tissues if my eyes start to water or my nose runs. I then also have some pH strips so I can check whether the NG tube is in my stomach. And finally, I have a syringe to help me check whether the NG tube is in my stomach also. So just to prep before I actually insert my NG tube, I am going to get my dressing ready. I just have some of this medical tape and I'm going to just cut off a chunk of it there. And then I am just going to cut it like this here, so it has two little legs, and I will use this to secure the NG tube to my nose. I do have various ways of securing my NG tube. I do find the Duroderm extra thin spots are the best on my most sensitive skin, but I'm going to be using this today. I do have a video on my 5 favourite ways to secure my NG tube, and I will have that link down below. So I'll just take this dressing and have it on the side here just so it's ready whenever I need to go with it. I'll also open up my syringe and have it handy as well. So I have my NG tube here and my gloves on. Now I'm going to show you how to measure the NG tube. I get my NG tube measured by my doctor, so I think that it's always advisable to have this done by a doctor, but if you do need to measure your own, I will show you how it's done. So what I do first of all is I put the tip against the nostril that I want to insert into, so this one here. Hold it there and bring the tube to the tip of my earlobe, so here. And then just hold it there and bring that down to my xiphoid process. So just in here. And that brings me up to number 54 there. You can use a marker if you want and just mark on the tube where you're measured up to, so that then whenever you're inserting, you know that this here mark is meant to be right on the edge of your nostril. But mine does have little measurements on it, so I go up to number 54. So now I've just opened up my Optilube. I am just going to insert the end of the NG tube into there so it's fully covered in that lube there. This will help it to slide down the nose and down the throat a bit easier. This NG tube does have a guide wire in it, so that will also help with inserting as well, and it will help to keep the tube quite rigid to help with insertion. So I have my glass of water handy. I have a little straw in it as well. This will help me to swallow down the tube and not have to sort of gulp back. It means I can just sort of sip on the straw and not have to tilt my head. And the technique that I use to insert the NG tube is something that I've learned over time and something that I think makes it the most comfortable for me. And what I do is I grab this part of my lip and I pull it down so I can feel my teeth. Then I insert the NG tube up my nose, and then as soon as it's kind of up your nose, I switch to a complete right angle and I insert it like this, so I'm going towards the back of my head, and this helps it to go down really smoothly. Whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to push my chin right into my chest, and a mix of pulling down my lip to touch my teeth and putting my chin in towards my chest means that when the tube hits a bit of resistance in the back of my nose, there's like a narrowing in the back of your nose where it can be quite hard to get the NG tube past. Once the NG tube hits that little bit of resistance, doing those two things, so chin into the chest and pulling down on the lip and feeling the teeth, will help the NG tube to go smoothly past that. And someone also commented on my last video and said if you twist the tube a little bit, it will help to get past that point of resistance. Then once the tube hits my throat, I will show you once it does. You'll be able to see the tube in the back of my throat. And once it hits that point, I will start to swallow down the tube, and I will use the water at that point. And that means that because I'm swallowing down the tube, it's a lot more likely to get into my stomach rather than going into my lung. But what I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to aspirate some of the contents from the NG tube and pH test it just to make sure it's definitely in my stomach and not in my lung. So let's just do all those things at the same time. I also have a little tissue handy in case everything starts to run, i.e. my eyes and my nose. So I'll just have that handy. And this process doesn't hurt at all. It's not painful, especially if you use all these techniques. It just feels like, God, I really need to sneeze because something's right up your nose. So my eyes can start to water, but it's not because I'm in pain whatsoever. So if you use the right technique, it definitely should not be sore. So I'm pulling down, tucking my chin in, putting it up my nose, and then changing to a right angle. And then just feed it in. So I just got past that little point of resistance at the back of my nose and it was pretty easy. So the NG tube is right in the back of my throat now, and I will show you that and then start drinking my water. Just swallow down the tube. So what I'm going to do is take a really big gulp of water, and then I'm almost going to let the NG tube swallow itself down. So you'll see I practically let go of the NG tube and my actual swallow reflex will actually suck the tube down for me. So you'll see there it actually started to suck itself down, and you can give it a little gentle nudge to just help it along. So once the tube is past the gag reflex, you can actually just start to feed it down just normally. So I'll show you that now. So just like this here. So I have now reached my marker. I'm then going to be securing my NG tube with my dressing. One thing I find is if you're waiting and trying to get your dressing ready, if I hold the NG tube really securely against the outer part of my nostril, it doesn't irritate my nose as much. So I'm really holding it really securely with both fingers against the outside of my nostril. I have cleaned my skin with the alcohol wipe, and now I'm just going to place the dressing on my nose. And I'm just going to wrap the legs of the dressing around the tube. So I have just wrapped one leg around the tube, and then I'm going to take the other leg and wrap it the opposite way around the tube. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is if you want more detail on how to find your xiphoid process, I will link a video down below. It's a really good one and a really easy way to find your xiphoid process, so I will have that link down below. But for now, we're going to go ahead and aspirate some of the stomach contents just to make sure it is actually in my stomach. This is my guider here. I'm going to make sure I close over that there and make it airtight so I can get a bit of suction going from this little opening here. And then inserting my syringe and pulling upwards to try to get some stomach contents out. I've then closed over that little port there. I'm then going to put that stomach contents onto this little pH strip here. The tiniest little bit will do. I'm just going to make sure I cover all those 3 little squares there with the aspirate. And the little squares there will change colour, and you can then look at that versus the pH strip container, which has a colour code on it. And I can see there that I have a pH of 2, which means it is in my stomach. I generally go for a pH of 3 and below, and then I know it's in my stomach. And because I have now confirmed it's in my stomach, I'm going to take out my guide wire. And the reason I don't want to take out my guide wire earlier is because if you do pH test it and find out it's in your lung because you're not getting a low enough pH, that means you'll have to take out your tube and reinsert it, and that can be difficult to do without the guide wire. So I am just keeping my guide wire in until I have confirmed it's definitely in my stomach, and then I'm taking it out. That is pretty much the insertion process. I just find that pulling down on my lip, putting my chin into my chest, and going at a right angle to my face really helps with the insertion process. Then once you get to your throat, you can then swallow down the tube with water and a straw, and that really helps to make sure it goes into your stomach, and also just helps to make sure the process is as quick and comfortable as possible. So that is pretty much it. I can then just go ahead and attach up my feed right here. I can wear the NG tube down like this. I can attach it to my clothes here with a little clip, or I can put it up and around my ear here and sit with it like this here. I'm just going to fire it up and around my ear for now. You can take a little dressing and place it right here, and that will hold it in tight close to your face, but I'm just going to leave it here for now. So anyway guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comment section down below whether you would like to see any more NG tube related videos or Crohn's related videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful or informative, and don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and hit the little notification bell to receive a notification every time I upload. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.